Hi guys. So I want to try something different today. I want to try to figure out if I can record these videos with the phone. And I'm going to try to do it today. Uh, there are a couple of books I want to discuss. One of them is called Among Others. It's a book by I think an English author or Welsh author or by the name Joe Walton, who with this novel, she got a bunch of sci-fi awards, and I think a lot of people recommended it, especially literary critics. They mentioned it here and there, and it's a very interesting and unusual read. And there are a couple of things I want to highlight about it. So to kind of give you a little bit of an overview of the story. So this is a story of a girl who's I think is 15 years old. She has problems at home. She goes to a boarding school in England. She has troubles with her health because she's been in an accident. She's been through a little bit of trauma, but she studies very well. She's on top of her class and a lot of things except for math. And she spends most of her time reading. And that's kind of like what this book is all about. So, what are the things that really stand out for me in this particular title? So, first of all, this is a book for people who like to read. It's especially for people who like to read science fiction. And it is about this period in your life where your books are your friends and you kind of discover the world and discover those books at the same time. And you have a lot of opinions and you just kind of like digest as much as possible through all these amazing adventures. The book itself, it centers about the around the science fiction period of like 1670s, and it ends in the 80s. And it talks about a bunch of different authors, Robert Zelazny, Ursula Le Guin, and a bunch of others. There are, of course, books lists from among others that mention all the books that were mentioned in this book. And it's just like a fascinating reading list. And in a way, this is, I guess, why they gave this book the awards, because it's just like about why science fiction is important and why people like science fiction, why do they read it, and what kind of science fiction do they read. And I kind of think this is like the major reason why you would read it, because it's just like it's as if you're going into life journal, if somebody remembers what that was, and just kind of read little notes on this or that and how the person leads their life, and how they kind of discover these books and go through them and meet friends and so on. It is written kind of like in a form of a diary. So basically, there are entries that you go through. Uh, and this kind of brings me to the second reason why I think I liked it, because I really like the style. It's very concise, it's very warm, it's very to the point, and it kind of reminded me of these early Haruki Murakami novels. I think listen to the Song of the Wind and the Pinball novel, and it's kind of like these little bits and pieces of life interconnected with literature, and it's just an amazing, fun experience, and I really enjoyed kind of these two aspects. From the point of view of the story itself, there's really not much to it. I do want to say that the third reason why I liked it is because deeply it is an optimistic book. It's a book that kind of tells you that everything's going to be all right, that you're going to survive. And I do think we need messages like that in our world. So one of the books that I've read that were mentioned in Joe Walton's "Am on Us" was "The Left Hand of Darkness" by Ursula Le Guin. I, for one, have not really read that much stuff by Ursula Le Guin. She is very popular in U.S., but she's really not that popular if you kind of go to where I'm coming from, right? So at least she wasn't at the time when I was growing up. And I didn't really know anything much except that she wrote the Wither of Earthsea series, which I think I've read on the first novel. And I was kind of like skeptical about her science fiction efforts, although they were mentioned like in a bunch of top of the top lists, and people really seem to enjoy it. So I kind of went to the library and picked up The Left Hand of Darkness and The Dispossessed, and I started with The Left Hand of Darkness. So here's my little overview of like a novel that probably everybody else have read already. So it's a story about an alien who comes to like a super harsh climate planet that is called Winter, where he discovers a society of humanoids who both have female and male, I guess, organs to them, and then they can serve both of those roles. And the novel is about the how does that biological peculiarity influences the way that the society works. And it's an exploration in, I guess, the way that society works in general, and kind of like how we rely on like look at different concepts based on our biological roles. And interesting novel, weird in structure, fun concept. I liked it. It did remind me a lot about let me find it here somewhere. It reminded me a lot of about based on this book, which is called A Memory Cold Empire. It starts with a little bit of this castle intrigue. There is a king, and there's some scheming going on around him, and there's this alien who wants to introduce this world to like the grander whatever community of worlds and introduce them to new technology and like space travel and all that stuff. And of course, people in power are like super cautious about that. They don't really want to become slaves or kind of like become parts of a bigger empire. So there's a lot going on there. There are some people who help him, and there is one character in particular who tries to help him out, and there's a lot of mistrust, there's a lot of misunderstanding because of the way people communicate and what they're trying to explain and say. And the main hero goes through a bunch of different challenges. He even ends up sort of like a concentration camp slash prison at some point. And it all basically ends more or less, I guess, on a positive note. But what was kind of like what I didn't like, those are the things that I liked. I think it was not bad. I think it was pretty interesting. It is also pretty short, which I really appreciate in a book. And I read through it pretty quickly. What I did not like is the structure, because basically I think 50% of the book is kind of this scheming, theming, whatever, introduction to the world, meeting some characters and so on. And then the last part of the book is this journey through the mountains, which are like covered in snow, and it's very tough between the human and this other human from this world, winter, and how they become close, and how they exchange their philosophies, how they exchange the way they look at the world and how they see the world, and then it kind of like abruptly ends, basically at the in the last chapter. Um, I'm not really a super big fan of these kind of structures where they sort of leave you at the very end with whatever you're thinking, and they don't really give you a good closure. So that was missing. Overall, I think it was a fun read. I am not sure if I would put this at my top of the top lists if I ever were to do any of those, but it's definitely not bad. And I also think it's worth a read just to understand that period of science fiction. And it is pretty short and it goes really fast. So I think if you want to try it and you want to learn more about Ursula Le Guin, if you're like as ignorant as I was, then it's a great start. There are a bunch of other books in this series, science fiction, where because she has like this fantasy direction and the science fiction direction, and there's a lot of books in the science fiction direction, which I think are united into some one bigger universe or series. And it's an interesting exploration. I have read that Ursula Le Guin's parents were anthropologists, and I think a lot of her, at least the Left Hand of Darkness, is kind of like her arguing with her parents, which is like a weird way of writing, but I think she's like trying to look at societies that are they don't have like a mom and a dad, but have like one person who's both, and how that influences the way that the kids are raised, how this influences the way that politics are organized, how people um, travel, how people build their society, build industries, and so on. It's fascinating, and I just think it's a very fun exploration of that point. It is short. It is, and it has a very abrupt ending, but I would still recommend it if you have a couple of weeks that you can devote some time to this. And yeah, I will try to read a couple of other books from this one. This is going to be a little bit of a reading list for me, at least in 2025. And I will make sure to share those impressions with you. If you like what I'm putting out on YouTube, please like, subscribe, and if you're feeling very generous, share it somewhere in your social networks or with your friends. I would really appreciate it. Thank you so much, and I'll see you sometime next month, I guess.